So continuing the play-in round series playoff predictions, we're going to be taking a look today in the Eastern Conference as we have the number 7 New York Islanders and the number 10 Florida Panthers. We're going to be taking a look at both these teams. They were both slumping heading into this break, but who has the edge going into this series? If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at this rematch from back in 2016 between the New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers. So going into the break, the New York Islanders were struggling. It was a pretty big issue for the Islanders. They had that really crazy franchise record-setting point streak back in October, November, into December. And since then, the team has completely fallen off the rails. And the Florida Panthers have kind of fallen off as well. There were high expectations for the Florida Panthers this season. And in a normal playoff format, the Florida Panthers would not be in the playoffs. But luckily, things worked out for both teams where they get a second opportunity. And these are two teams that I really believe had higher expectations for themselves and just were not able to get into that situation where they could really make a difference and really own their division. They just were not able to do that. So looking at the head-to-head between these two teams, we have the New York Islanders, their power play, 17.26%. Definitely not great. The average is around 18, 19, 20%. So anywhere not where the Islanders are at. The Islanders are not known for their power play. They definitely had some issues. It's gotten better since last season, but it's still an issue for the Islanders, and that could be a difference maker in this series, not being able to take advantage and build momentum in a series off of power plays and special teams. That could be a factor for the Islanders, but their penalty kill is definitely a lot more solid, 80%, which is pretty solid, right around league average. The Islanders have definitely become a more league defensive team under Barry Trotz, so this is no surprise really to anybody, and that's kind of where the Islanders sit with that. Looking at their record, 35, 23, and 10 on the season, not too bad for the New York Islanders. And the big player to watch in this series, I believe it's going to be the big forward from last year. I believe Jordan Eberle. I think Jordan Eberle is a difference maker for the New York Islanders. We saw what he did in the playoffs last season. I think he's going to be able to pull off some magic again in these playoffs. I think he's that kind of player for the Islanders where he could score clutch goals in the big moments. Sorry, Edmonton, he's not with you anymore, but I really believe Jordan Eberle will be a difference maker for the Islanders in this series. And the fact that the Islanders don't score a ton of goals, they need guys like Jordan Eberle to score those big goals. So now looking at the Florida Panthers, their power play over 21%. A big difference between the New York Islanders, 17%. The Florida Panthers are pretty solid on the power play. They have some pretty lethal weapons up there. They brought in a guy like Brett Connolly. You have guys like, Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau. The list goes on. The Florida Panthers have some pretty solid, high-potent offense up front. Not to mention they have some pretty big guys on the blue line that can have a pretty lethal shot. Guys like Aaron Ekblad, guys like Michael Matheson. Those guys can definitely help out the Florida Panthers. And not to mention Keith Yandel. He's still sticking around. He's a pretty solid player there for the Florida Panthers, especially on the power play. He's basically like another forward. Looking at the penalty kill, a little bit weaker than the Islanders, just a little over 78%. Not too bad there for the Florida Panthers. Nothing to write home about, but definitely not terrible. The Florida Panthers are not known for their defense, and I think that could be a factor for them in this series. They're not a very defensive team, even under Coach Quenneville. I think it's taken a little bit of the way this team is built, it doesn't always fit with Joe Quenneville necessarily, so I'll be talking about that later in this video, but the record for the Florida Panthers this season, 35, 26, and 8. Not too bad there for the Florida Panthers. And I believe the big guy to watch in this series, this is no surprise. He had an unbelievable year this season. We talk about underrated players like Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau down in Florida. I don't believe that's the case anymore. I believe Jonathan Huberdeau is going to be a difference maker for the Florida Panthers. Again, we're looking at the top goal scorers. You got the Islanders with Eberle, and you've got Jonathan Huberdeau. Huberdeau has been solid all season. If he could keep that magic after the break and continue that here in this play-in series, that could be a huge difference maker for the Florida Panthers. Looking at the season series between these two teams, they met up 3 times before the end of 2019. A 3-2 victory for the Islanders in the shootout back in October. In November, the Islanders played the Panthers again, a 2-1 victory for the Islanders in regulation. And then in December, for December 12th, the Islanders once again beat the Florida Panthers 3-1. So the season series definitely went to the Islanders, winning all 3 games. They were all pretty close games. There was only, the first 2 games, it was a shootout and a 1-goal game, and the third game only being a 2-goal difference. So both teams, you can see the Islanders specifically were able to keep the puck out of their net. They only gave up 4 goals in those 3 games. And the Florida Panthers really didn't give up too many goals either. I think that's what we're going to see in this series. Nothing too fancy, but I think the Islanders have a bit of an edge here in this series. We'll be talking about that here. We've got the playoff history. It's only once that these two teams met, back in 2016, where that guy, 91. Oh yeah, Butch Goring. Now, back when John Tavares got the big goal for the New York Islanders, really both goals, he tied the game and got the game winner in double overtime to send the Islanders to the second round for the first time in over a decade. That's disappointing. But anyway, besides that, I really believe the Islanders have the edge over the Florida Panthers because they have an issue with their offense, but their defense is very solid. And if you've been watching the rest of my season review, the playoff predictions, defense wins championships, and I truly believe that. And the Islanders have a very solid defense, and the Florida Panthers have some decent pieces on that blue line, but I really think the Islanders have the edge. You've got guys like Keith Yandel, Aaron Ekblad, but overall those guys aren't super defensively reliable. I think that's a huge factor. The Islanders are going to take care of business in their own end. Not that the Florida Panthers don't. They've got a pretty solid coach there, and Coach Joel Quenneville. They have something to play for. There's been rumors that the Florida Panthers could make big moves this summer. This could give them an opportunity, a second chance really, to try and make this team work. They spent a lot of money last summer. Dale Talon definitely put a lot on the line for this team. Will they be able to respond for him? We'll see in this series. But I have the New York Islanders winning this series in a close matchup, but I believe the Islanders will pull away in this series 3-2. Both teams are pretty solid overall. I think Joe Quenneville will at least get this team 2 wins, but I believe Barry Trotz and the New York Islanders will prevail and win this series in 5 games. And not to mention, I don't know how the home ice advantage and things like that will work. I think the Islanders will definitely get that opportunity. So that is it for this video. Leave in the comment section down below, who do you have winning this series in 5 games? I'll leave that in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the rest of our playoff prediction series. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.